G'day there guys, scared of all other Australian YouTubers except for Jack from MK because he's a close friend of mine, back at it again with another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's episode like I love you, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a like on the video, a prawn on the Barbie, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Posted by user Ceiling Fan Floor Tiles, titled, Am I the a-hole for firing my babysitter for getting drunk on the job? This is my throwaway account. So, my 37 female, babysitter, 16 female, has been babysitting for me for about 2 months. She's a very sweet and quiet girl and is good with the kids, 4 female and 8 male. We've only had small problems here and there, but nothing major at all. When she first started babysitting for me, I had asked her if there were any drinks or snacks that she'd like me to keep at the house, as she's here from 9 to 7 every Monday through Saturday. She mentioned that she really liked seltzer water, and I had brought them for the first month, but honestly, I forgot after a while and never kept any in the fridge. A few days ago, I bought hard seltzers for me and my husband and didn't think anything of it. A little bit after 2 p.m, she messaged me that she wasn't feeling well and thought that she may have to go home. If it was possible I could get off from work earlier. I asked her to try and hold out until the end of the day. Not too long after, she called me crying, saying that something was wrong and she had to go home. She was drunk clearly, she had drank the hard seltzers. I told her to leave and she walked home. She messaged me the next day and said that she now knew that hard seltzers were alcohol, and she hadn't known. She never drank before, as both of her parents were alcoholics, and she has diagnosed PTSD regarding alcohol. She never even planned on drinking in general. I told her not to come back, as she put my children in danger. She called me crying and saying that she didn't know, and that she cared deeply about my children and would never ever drink with them, or at all, and that she needs the money to pay for a driver's permit. She comes from a not-so-well-off family. I told her to find a real job, and that it wasn't my fault she got drunk. My husband says I'm being very rude, and that she did try to reach out when she wasn't feeling well. My kids are upset to see her go. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Yes, how do you read this and see that she's coming from a place of vulnerability? She's apologizing to you. She told you she doesn't know what a hard seltzer is. You stocked the fridge with them. She said seltzer water. So many things you screwed up, OP. Gotta remember, she's 16 with PTSD from a family that doesn't treat her well. And on top of that, you tell her to find a real job after she's looking after your kids? Why don't you take on the real job of looking after your own kids then if you think it's so easy? We'll see how that goes for you, OP. So many things that you've done here that are just so wrong. So wrong, nasty, vile in every way. You're a bad person, OP. You're the a-hole. Edit. Okay guys, I'm the a-hole. I see it now. Thank you. I'll hire her again. And edit number 2. I will pay her $1,500 a week from now on, and pay her permit and test, as well as her license test. Seems like a troll, but okay. You are an ungodly a-hole. Those seltzers are newish in the alcohol world, and I wouldn't expect someone who hates alcohol to know that. How mature of her to let you know. How immature of you to do what you did. You're the a-hole. Not only newish to alcohol, but fudging 16. I sure as hell didn't know what each and every alcoholic beverage looked like at 16. What a massive a-hole. Edit. In response to OP's edit, I hope the babysitter has found a better employee to work for. I hope with every fiber in my being that she is able to give her a "that's gonna be a no from me, dog," when OP calls and offers her the job back. Someone else replies, I am well over 16, and grabbed one accidentally a few weeks ago from my own fridge. They also don't taste all that much of alcohol, so I was a good third of the way down before I realized my mistake. I've done this several times myself, because we buy different seltzers all the time. To make it worse, I poured it in a glass, so I didn't even have a can to look at. OP should be ashamed of herself. She's lucky the babysitter's parents didn't call the cops on her. Seriously, I'm 5 years sober, and have to be really careful about logos on seltzer now. Someone at the grocery store had taken a hard seltzer from the beer section and put it with the regular ones on another aisle. It took me a minute to realize it was alcohol and not just some new flavored water. How the hell is a 16-year-old that didn't even buy the stuff supposed to know? I'm gonna read OP's comments in order from latest to earliest. I don't know how this works, so I can't find what they're replying to, but paints a really rough picture, this one. So there's 5 comments, and here we go. I do believe her. She's a very nice girl, quiet and shy, but I think she should have read the label and been more responsible. I pay her $100 a week, which she was happy to take. She mentioned that she helps her dad pay rent, so I'm assuming that's why she doesn't have the money. In my country, kids are out of school right now, hence why my children are home. I thought $100 a week was fair for a first-time job, but now I see it's not. I only need her for a few more weeks. It is only fair to pay quite a bit to make up for underpaying her for the past 2 months. I can afford to pay $1,500 a week for a few weeks, not long term. And no, I wouldn't be able to afford 3 months paying $1,500 a week. So it does look like this is real and they're not trolling. $100 a week? Dear Lord, OP. Disgusting. Posted by user Sick Doe. Titled, Am I the a-hole for making an insurance claim against my neighbor for hitting my car, even though my car is a beater? I have an old car that I bought for $2,000 when I was 16. I'm 26 now. In the time I've had it, I've learned a lot about car maintenance. I fix it up with junkyard parts, and it's pretty cheap to keep running. It's dented and rusty as hell, but it goes, and it's cheap. So anyway, my neighbor parks in his driveway, and I park on the street. And he's gotten mad at me for parking in the street because he finds it harder to navigate his big truck around my car. I asked him if he wants me to move my car ahead a bit or behind a bit on the street, because I'm happy to, but I have to park somewhere on the street because I don't have a driveway or garage space. He didn't like that. He doesn't want me parking on the street at all, but I'm not about to park on a whole different street than I live at. Anyway, this week I was sitting on my fire escape reading a book, and I saw my neighbor drive out of his driveway right into my car's side. I grabbed my phone and start filming ASAP. I walked out to the car still filming and got a good video of the damage to the door panel. It was dented and scratched. Now, my car was already pretty beat. It's got body panels from 3 different cars, dents and dings all over. It's got damage to the convertible soft top that I've fixed up with glue and patches, etc. It's a tough old girl. So the new damage didn't bother me much. I didn't plan on fixing it. But it did bother me that my neighbor hit and run my car, especially because he knew it belongs to me. So after a few days of thinking on it, I decided to file an insurance claim. I sent the company the video, which had gotten my neighbor's license plate in it. I thought they could find his insurance and settle. The insurance company said that for a hit and run, the policy was that I needed to file a police report, so I did. I wasn't expecting that much, but I got a $1,600 payout from my neighbor's insurance. I guess they appraised my car based on its estimated value, based on model and year, and didn't pay attention to the fact that it was an absolute beater with a lot of DIY fixes. Anyway, my neighbor was mad at me and came to my house after the insurance thing had paid out, and he was looking to yell at me. But my landlord was there in the hallway doing some repairs, and when he came looking for which door was mine, my landlord told him that if he wasn't invited to get the hell off his property. I guess he could tell this guy was angry and probably wasn't a good idea to send him up to my room. I feel a little bad that I hid, lol. Feels cowardly, but it was also cowardly that he did a hit and run. Am I the a-hole for taking a huge insurance payout on my beater car because my neighbor hit it? No, not at all. You got proof, and on a video, that he hit you. Do you know how rare that is, OP? It's not easy to find a hit and run happening and have your phone out at the same time. I'd say this is somewhat of a stars aligning situation because it's hard to get proof of hit and runs of the person that did it. He's just mad because he got caught. Don't be sad, OP. A lot of people would hide in the same situation. You don't want to confront someone that's emotional and ready to fight. I don't, you don't, and I don't blame you. Not the a-hole. It doesn't matter what state your car was in. At best, he is an irresponsible driver. At worst, he intentionally committed a crime because of an unreasonable vendetta. Either way, he should face the consequences. He intentionally committed a crime when he left the scene of an accident. OP is not the a-hole, not at all. Honestly, I hate everything about his post. This guy hit my parked car because he can't navigate it properly and fled the scene. Am I the a-hole for getting his insurance to pay for it? Oh, he's my neighbor by the way. Mate, this is what insurance is for. This is why you have insurance. It's so unbelievably not the a-hole, I'm shocked it's not removed by mods. Wasn't there a rule about things like this being so obviously not the a-hole that it's absurd? I personally don't think it's quite that clear-cut an issue. I believe that there is an added element of possible a-hole due to the lack of damage or even real caring about damage. The insurance and police reports were filed as a retaliatory action against the neighbor. Not that any of that excuses the actions of the neighbor, who was clearly the a-hole in this situation, but there's the whole two wrongs don't make a right perspective too. Even so, I think OP's actions are entirely excused as a punitive measure for the a-hole neighbor, if nothing else. Posted by user Le Loup Guide, the Wolf Girdles in French. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my friends to have realistic expectations about who will find him attractive? My friend, male 20, complains about his lack of men to date. He isn't unattractive, but he is no male model. He, however, has very narrow tastes when it comes to men. He wants a tall, ripped male model who isn't feminine in any way, which I've always found pretty shallow. Yesterday, while he was complaining about how he must be so ugly because none of these 10 out of 10 men would date him and that he will never find a decent guy to date, I told him that he needed to have more realistic expectations. Most people aren't perfect models and the epitome of masculinity, so he needs to be open to dating less attractive people and not be so shallow because he's also not a 10 out of 10. He accused me of attacking his self-esteem and not being a good friend, for telling him he's unattractive and ridiculing him for having standards. I feel justified in what I said because I think he needs a wake-up call, but maybe I shouldn't have told him that he's not that attractive. He has had issues with self-esteem in the past, so I felt guilty for bringing up his looks. I guess in this one I'd say that everyone kinda sucks here. You know, it's fine to tell him that he's not that attractive in some situations if you know that he's gonna take it well, but in this situation maybe it wasn't fine because he's not taking it well. I feel like there are concessions where people will, genuinely take it on board because you're giving them honest advice as a friend. I'd say it's a not the a-hole leaning on everyone sucks here in this situation just because of that comment. But helping your friends see reality, nothing wrong with that. So that's my judgment. And OP replies in their post, I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to give their perspective on the situation. I've realized that I was both in the right and in the wrong on this matter. I wanted to tell him that his very high standards were making him unhappy because he's been struggling to find decent boyfriends for the 6 years I've known him, and I was worried it was the reason he was suffering with such bad self-esteem. Not defending myself here. I, however, did insinuate he wasn't a 10 out of 10 and dealt a blow to a person who already struggles with self-esteem. I was an a-hole for that. I said what I said out of concern, but I may have done some damage in doing so. Thank you all for making me realize this. Also, to the one person who said I didn't understand sexuality and homosexuality, as a bisexual male, all I have to say is lol. Not the a-hole. I have a friend who's also extraordinarily like your friend, and it's to the point where it's obnoxious. Even if they did meet a person who lived up to their physical standards, it's unlikely that person will also meet their other standards too. Personally, I would much rather a person who I can chat with and has similar likes as me over them being my 10 out of 10. I've dated some very attractive people, but quite honestly, it just wasn't a match because the personalities just weren't there. Your friend seems to not have learned that lesson, and well, they are going to continue down the path he's chosen until they gets it right. When I have friends like this, I tell them to find someone with whom they can laugh, talk, do things with, instead of going for a look. Honestly, it's really, really obnoxious. I have so many smart, wonderful, loyal male friends that I met in college who she actually has a ton in common with, but she won't ever talk to any of them because they aren't the gruff, tattooed lumberjack type she wants. I mean, it is important to be attracted to your partner, but if you can't have a conversation with them, is it really worth it? Lol, gruff, tattooed lumberjack is totally my type too. Especially if they're on the shorter side, like 5'5", 5'8", it's ideal. I call it my buff, bearded, short dude fetish. But my husband is tall and lanky and has a bit of a dad bod, and while he has a beard right now, he hasn't always, and that makes him in no way less attractive to me. I can't for the life of me fathom people who refuse to give someone a shot if they don't physically match up with their dream 10 out of 10. My husband is so much better than any fictional short lumberjack I could make up, because he's real and he loves me, and we make each other laugh, and even if we're not each other's dream bod, we still have great sex. It makes no sense to hold out for perfection when you can find someone you click with and make perfection on your own. Posted by user Downtown Inevitable 6, titled, Am I the a-hole for hiding my tip money from my boyfriend? My boyfriend and I have lived together for over a year, and we've had birth control failure, broken condom, that resulted in me getting pregnant just a few months into the relationship. The entire time I was pregnant, I worked full-time and was getting put on bed rest quite a bit. He would not keep a job, he would not get along with my management, they didn't like him, they were picking on him, they wanted him to work longer hours, or whatever excuse he could find to quit. He's also a chain smoker and always needing cigarettes or being very angry and rude when he didn't have them. Well, my son was born early and he needed to be in the NICU. I figured since my boyfriend didn't have a job that he would stay at the hospital with me, 2.5 hours away from our house. He then announced he got a new job and I could stay with the baby and he was going home. Our son was given a 50-50 chance to even come home. I was angry, but I let him go, hoping he was going to straighten up. Fast forward, and our son is home and on oxygen, and of course my boyfriend isn't working again, and I'm pulling doubles. I make enough with my paychecks to pay the bills, but I've been hiding my tip money in a wax candle burner, which is broken so it doesn't turn on. I've saved quite a bit because if I don't hide it, then he takes it to buy pack after pack of cigarettes. I know it's dishonest, but it's the only extra money I have. Well, he was messing around and hit a corner shelf where I kept the cash, and it fell on the floor and the money spilled out. He scolded me for hiding money from him, and that he was suffering from nicotine withdrawal, and that he couldn't believe how selfish I was, and that I was a liar, and all this other stuff. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add, I've stayed with him despite his actions, because my very religious family was very upset that I got pregnant out of wedlock, and I'm afraid that if I leave him, that they will shun me even more for being a single parent. Edit to add, he doesn't smoke in the house around the baby. He has a machine that is plugged into the wall that creates oxygen from the surrounding air, so he has to sleep and stay right beside that machine at all times, so he goes outside to smoke. Also, he's taking care of our son during the day. He seems well cared for. Putting into childcare isn't an option because none of the childcare centers will take him because of his oxygen dependency, and the ones who will are so expensive that my whole paycheck would barely cover the cost. I feel like I'm drowning sometimes, just barely making it above water. I feel like this is a good time to say, not the a-hole. I would get out of there as soon as possible. The fact that you're scared of your partner, that they are so useless, that there's such a weight on your relationship, they refuse to compromise, they refuse to get a job, they just sit at home and collect money at you and blame their nicotine addiction on you not giving them your tips from your job when you have to pull doubles and they won't pull their weight around the house. Genuinely not acceptable. I won't stand for it. I would never stand for a partner like that. They'd be on the street faster than you could say yo, which isn't even a word. I understand that OP doesn't have much option in this situation, but I'd rather be on my own than with this person in my life. Update, edit. I just called my grandmother and told her about everything going on, and my son and I are moving in with her for the time being. My grandfather is coming to pick up some of my things and baby things, and we've arranged with a medical supplies company to move my son's equipment and to bring me some mobile oxygen tanks. I'm so glad I called her. I feel like we might be free from so much heartache. My grandmother has even agreed to watch him during the day, and I can stay home with him at night now since I won't have to pay rent. I can start saving for a place of my own with my son. Not the a-hole. I'm more concerned why you chose to stay with someone like this than why you hid money. My family was really upset when I got pregnant and not married. Very religious family, so now if I leave him, I'm afraid they'll shun me even more for being a single parent. Honestly, that sounds better than staying with your boyfriend. You're practically raising your child on your own, so it wouldn't be much of a change. Of course it would be a change. She wouldn't have to be paying for his addictions. She wouldn't have to hide money. What a peace of mind that would be. And hopefully OP can find that peace of mind. Not the a-hole. Oh my god, run. Run far away from him. Your premature baby has come home from the NICU on an oxygen tank, and your boyfriend is still chain smoking? I'm not even going to touch the fact that he still feels entitled to your money, despite literally everything else you've written in this post. If you don't leave this deadbeat, we'll see you in a bit when you post about him playing video games all day while you work. Not the a-hole. Posted by user RunRunGray. Titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting to put up a garden fence to prevent my neighbor from mowing my lawn? Odd title, I know. Look, I haven't done it yet, but I want to put up a garden fence on my side of the property line in order to prevent my neighbor from mowing my property. The reasons why are, 1. My neighbor uses a large riding lawnmower to take care of their own yard and often mows a portion of my yard in order to avoid items in their backyard. Trailer parked right by, but not on the property line. Trampoline placed 6 inches from line. 2. About a week ago, they mowed and damaged one of my sprinkler heads. It didn't cause my yard to flood, and I was still able to fix it without having to replace it, but it was still annoying. I saw my neighbor do it, noticed that they did it, and move on. That's all you have to tell me, OP. You're not the a-hole from this point onwards. 3. They recently, within the last 12 months, moved in, and we've waved and said hello to them, but they have ignored us. They are friendly with the other people in the neighborhood, but seem to ignore us and the other neighbors who share a property line with them. 4. They tore out the property boundary stick between our houses and theirs. There is a hole where it was, and I want to place something, anything in that spot before the hole fills in. I want to separate out my assumptions because they're based on my observations, which may be different than what the neighbor is actually doing. You know, like 2 sides to each story and whatnot. First, I have a feeling they are trying to slowly encroach onto our property. They have the smallest lot and have it full of stuff. Shed, trailer, trampoline boat, etc. And we have the largest lot and keep it pretty empty. Secondly, they don't seem to respect our property since they damaged our sprinkler. Lastly, they haven't been very friendly to us, and I want to create a barrier between us and them. I'm not a large fence person. In fact, based on our city rules, I can't fence a large portion of my yard. I've planted trees between us, but can't have them on the property line. I am allowed to place a small decorative garden fence. For reference, they are those 2 to 3 feet tall metal fences that can be hammered into the ground. They are 100% decorative. I want to place it on our property to prevent them from mowing our yard. I would plant shrubs and flowers next to it so it doesn't look stupid. I've told my family and friends this idea, and they seem to be split on if I'm being a petty a-hole. So, am I? I'm sorry, is trying to protect your yard from damage in a beautiful way petty and a-hole-ish? I don't think so, and I guess you could always just go up to them and ask, hey, could you please stop mowing on my side? And we could see how it goes, but this seems like an idea for people that have social anxiety, and they just want to do a soft approach to keeping them off your lawn. I think that's a good way that doesn't start any confrontation, doesn't cause any stress for you, maybe even makes your garden look a little better. I support this idea, OP. They don't seem to be great people, in my opinion. OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, and I hate neighbors. Fence it immediately. I feel this so much. Had bad neighbors a while ago. One lady in our neighborhood cut tulips my mum had growing in our front yard. Neighbors are horrible, and the good ones are few and far in between. We have neighbors on one side that poisoned all our plants over time so their clothesline would get more sun. We know they did it because on several occasions we caught them in our yard with poison bottles. Also, the head of a large coconut palm fell onto me whilst I was in our paddling pool one summer. When I looked at the tree, there was a cork placed in a hole drilled into it, and the entire head very rarely just falls off in one complete piece. We spoke to our local council and put up the tallest privacy screen we were allowed to. It's a pity because now their clothesline gets absolutely no sun, and they had to put in a second clothesline in the middle of their pristine, manicured lawn. I literally breathed a sigh of relief over the last bit about the clothesline thing backfiring. What kind of complete wretch poisons their neighbors' plants? They really are awful. We've never had any issues with neighbors in the past. My husband thinks it's because the old couple we bought our home off were complete pushovers. They let them dictate pretty much everything regarding the gardens, fencing, etc. Then we moved in and brought small dogs, who are always kept inside unless we're in our yard with them, and we didn't agree with everything they wanted to do. It wasn't obvious at first that they were dying. It was a concerted effort over about 12 months. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late to save most of the trees, plants, and shrubs that bordered their side of the yard. You know what, OP? You should sneak over at night and poison words and symbols into their lawn. A big ol' peepee. Perchance, can I interest you in a cock and balls, neighbor? Not the a-hole. Simply put, it is your property. I would be remiss if I didn't add, good fences make good neighbors. Also, it's not like there's any kind of relationship to worry about ruining with these rude turds. Posted by user RingAnon432, titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting a ring my fiancé already gave to another girl? My now fiancé was engaged a couple of years before we got together, and they broke up and she gave the ring back. We've been together for a few years, and a few days ago, he proposed and I was super excited. The ring looked kind of familiar, and when I asked him where it was from, he said it was the ring he gave to ex-fiancée. I immediately took it off and was like, I don't want a ring you bought for someone else. It wasn't meant for me. He got upset and said it didn't matter, because it's not hers anymore, it's mine. My family and friends are split, saying that I'm the a-hole and I'm justified. I don't want him to spend a whole other $1,000 on a ring for me, but I want a ring that was meant for me, not for someone else. Am I the a-hole? I feel like you're justified in this one, OP. He kept the ring, he told you the ring was from her, years ago. I would feel kind of insulted getting the same ring. I know it's like a little bit of a place of privilege there, but Jesus. No, I would be wearing that ring every day being like, he didn't get this for me. You know, he's just passing it on because he can't be bothered. He doesn't want to get another ring. He doesn't want something that's for me. I feel like in a marriage, it is about you two as partners. And, you know, the ring is symbolic of that relationship. If you're wearing the ring that he meant for another woman, it doesn't feel like a bond with your husband. It feels like an imposter. I would feel like an imposter. I don't blame OP for feeling that way and giving the ring back. Not the a-hole. This is ridiculous. How dare he give you her ring? It's her ring, he meant it for her, bought it for her. How does he think to give you her rejects is okay? You were completely justified, and I would rethink this guy if I were you. Oh hun, you got yourself a clueless one. Not the a-hole, of course. Yeah, wonder why he and the ex broke up. He gave it to another girl before her. He thought, you know what, third time's the charm. My husband had proposed to another girl before we ever met. When we talked about getting married, he knew I wouldn't accept that ring at all, so we picked out our rings together. But he did ask me if I wanted that ring just as a regular piece of jewelry, and I was like, hell no, that's bad juju, and I want nothing to do with it. Not the a-hole. Lol, I don't know why, but this reminded me. My mum gave a family friend her old wedding and engagement rings from divorce. He had them melted down and recast into new rings for his wife. So that was cool upcycling. I had this happen to me. A friend of my fiancé made a comment about not wanting another woman's ring. The thing was, we already were in the process of getting it recast into the ring she designed. My fiancé, now wife, freaked out. The jeweler was a Gigi. He said that most people don't realize, but at least 30% of diamonds and the gold they cast into are recycled. So, the probability of you getting a diamond from a ring that wasn't originally worn by a cheater who slept with half of the football team is fairly high. By the way, this didn't happen, it's just an example. Oh wow, definitely not the a-hole. Are you serious? What kind of guy does that? I would be ticked and would have reacted the same way. Lol, my old co-worker's ex did this after they called off the engagement. She happened to run into him a couple years later, and his new fiancée was wearing the same ring from the original engagement. Co-worker commented that it was a nice ring and then walked off laughing. He was a clueless jerk, so it didn't surprise her. Cringe. Alright guys, that's where I'm going to end today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and maybe even learned something that you didn't know before. If you haven't already, please do feel free to click that like button, as it really does help me in the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already and you loved today's video, please feel free to subscribe. I would love it a lot. Also, big shout out to all my Patreon members and channel subscribers. You guys are all up on the screen right now. I love you. I love your faces. Also, I love seeing you guys all chatting down below in the comments. It brightens my day to see the stories that you guys share and just the kind words you guys always have for my videos, as well as everyone else in the videos. I love you too. But honestly, your ongoing support means the world to me, and I just love it so much that you guys are able to support a career for myself that I invest so much time into. And you guys honestly motivate me to work harder each and every day to put more love into the videos for you guys. If you guys have watched this far in the video and you haven't already subscribed on Patreon or become a channel member, that's cool, you don't have to, but there are links down below. You can donate any amount of money, pledge that any month, cancel whenever. I'm completely cool with it. It's just there for you to support me if you'd like to go the extra mile. And I'll go the extra mile for you guys by putting out new amazing content every single day. With that said guys, I really hope you have a good day, night, sleep, bath, time at work, whatever you're up to today. This has been Markee. I'll see you in the next amazing video. Bye.